Morning, folks. Kevin Ross from Crossfire Defense Academy and Gun Range. All right, going over step 4 in the 5-step process of making you a better shooter. Step 4, we're working on trigger control right now. All right, a lot of guns have a lot of different triggers. You got double singles, double action only, striker fired, single action only guns. Everything's got a different trigger on it. All right, we're going to work primarily right now today with the striker fire type trigger control and what we teach and how we recommend people pull the trigger. All right, this is a way, not the way. All right, this is the way that we teach shooters here, and I've taught shooters over the last 15, 20 years how to pull the trigger on a Glock. All right, there's 2 different types of trigger controls you can use with the striker fire gun. This is serve pistol. It's completely inert. Slide does not move, so it's safe to work at here. Index muzzle up inside the booth. First thing we need to do is get contact with the trigger. So we need to make contact with the trigger. All right. We don't want the bottom of our finger dragging the inside of the trigger guard, and we don't want it too high up inside the trigger. We want it right on the tip. You can use that first pad of your finger, and some folks even like to get a little bit further in, and that's fine. Once you find your spot, you want to weld your finger to that trigger, and you want to marry it to it and don't want it to come off of there. We have 2 steps, or 2 different types of trigger presses. We have one, we call it interrupted press, and the other one's a continuous press, or what I like to refer to as contact to detonation. All right? This is what we mostly see, and this is what affects accuracy downrange, contact to detonation. Shooters will make contact with the trigger and immediately pull straight to the rear until the weapon fires. They're not interrupting the trigger process. They're going from step 1 all the way to step 4 in one movement. And then generally they'll take their finger off the trigger and then they'll redo the process again. Step 1 to step 4. That causes a lot of added movement in the weapon, and it's going to move the sights. The weapon is not going to fire or hit where we intend to. At closer range, you can get away with that. At longer range is 25 and beyond, that's going to severely affect your accuracy. So what we like to teach is what we call an interrupted trigger process. Everybody that works with Smith & Wesson, SIG, HK, Glock, everybody knows their striker fire trigger process. So first step is making contact. Good trigger finger placement and keep it married to the trigger. Second step, there's a certain amount of slop in striker fire triggers, or what we call movement or slop. Step 2 is getting through the slop. So step 1, making contact. Step 2, getting through the slop. Step 3 is where we get to the wall. That's where it gets hard. That's where it's engaging, the trigger bar is engaging the sear, and it's getting ready. We're going to create all the energy to pull the trigger and draw the firing pin back so it can fire and operate the weapon. So step 1 is contact. Step 2, getting through the slop. Step 3 is at the wall. Now once we get to the wall, we need to pause and verify our sights. Make sure we got equal height, equal light, and proper sight alignment on the target. All right. Once we have that and we're sure we're going to strike, we're aimed in and we're ready to strike the target, we're going to simply pull straight to the rear with as little movement as possible. Weapon's going to go through its cycle of operation. When it does, we do a technique called get off, get on. Some folks will hold the trigger to the rear and just let it out till it resets and get back on the wall. The method that I like to teach is once we get the trigger pulled to the rear, is I go all the way back out to step 1 and immediately back to step 3. I can do that during recoil and dead time without waiting for the weapon to settle. The problem with pulling it to the rear and waiting for the weapon to fire and then settling the release is you're adding time into your trigger work. So if we go step 1, get through the slot to step 3, verify sights, press, weapon goes through recoil, get off, get on, and we're right back at the wall ready to make our next shot. Don't need to make a shot. We can simply go straight trigger finger, get off the wall, and get straight alongside the frame of the gun.